us is Chris Mayer from Behavioral Health Response. You teach these mental health first aid classes to a lot of people. I think you mentioned in there 48 you've got coming up. It seems to me like such a simple idea that makes so much sense, so it's got to be more complicated than it seems. And I often wonder about these programs. It sounds so good. Do we know that it works, or do we know yet that it works?
We know based on what Australia has experienced
And
that
this
it
is where
works.
it came from. It was developed in Australia.
It was.
Right? Yeah.
And then Missouri and Maryland's Departments of Mental Health brought it to the States. So we started doing that about 2008. I was trained in 2009, and I can tell you from the emails I get from individuals who have attended the class, it's worked for them.
Yeah. What kind of emails? What are they telling you?
Well, it's really kind of interesting. I had one gentleman say, "Thank you for the training. My children say I listen more." You know, that alone is a big success. Doesn't mean it's a mental health concern, but at least he's open to the idea of that. But the best one I received as of late was a gentleman who works for St. Louis County government, not a clinician. And he says that, you know what, I look at employees differently. I look at people who come in differently. I look at the people in my church differently, my youth group differently, based on what I learned. And now I can model what it is to be able to say, I need some help, or here's where you can go for help. Because before he didn't have any idea of where to go.
And this is not just for youth mental health, this is mental health in general?
The idea is that it's for adults that work with youth, and we do trainings for adults as well, for adults with mental health concerns. But it's for anybody, because what happens is we talk about youth and we talk about anxiety. And I had a gentleman in the class this past weekend who said, that's me on that board. I'm 47 years old, and I realize the reason why I can't get my master's degree, why my relations aren't successful, that I have anxiety. Had no idea that's what it was holding him back since he was a child, and he could pinpoint when it started. I mean, that was an amazing moment to have him figure out that's what I need, and then we talked about what's your next steps.
Yeah, it seems to me that there would be a lot of, a very wide range of mental health issues.
Yes.
So you know, when you do first aid, you learn CPR and the Heimlich maneuver, and
yes.
And maybe how to stop bleeding with pressure and a tourniquet if it's necessary. Okay, beyond that,
Yes.
You know, you're starting to be a doctor after that. But that's basic first aid. It would seem to me that mental health first aid would be a lot more subtle than that.
But it's the same concept. We are the help that's available until more professional help arrive. So it's following a mnemonic device. They call it ALGE, where you ask about suicide or harm. We listen not judgmentally. We give reassurance and information, kind of normalizing what's experiencing. We're going to encourage appropriate professional help. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to take it, but you're going to plant that seed and say, you know, sometimes when people aren't sleeping or their eating habits are changing, there's some signs of depression. Perhaps we should talk about going to a counselor. And then we're going to encourage appropriate self-help strategies that they already are doing. I mean, it's something that we can take away. And really what it comes down to is being able to ask the question of, how can I help you?
Yeah, it seems to me as I was reading up on this,
Yes.
one of the things that came up was, at what point do you speak honestly to somebody and directly, as opposed to where we might, our initial sense might be we need to tiptoe around this. And there might be times when you need to ask directly, have you ever thought of committing suicide? Do you have a plan? Now, I don't know if that's something that I would do, say, as a teacher, or do I refer to a mental health professional?
Well, I can tell you if you take that course, whether you're with parents as teachers, or you're a security officer, you're a teacher in the schools, we teach you to ask that question. Because everybody needs to ask that question directly and openly, because we want to get the answer. If I'm not clear, and when I ask about suicide, then they can't answer that openly and honestly. And then they don't know if they can get the help from me that they need. It may just be like, I would ask you the question and you say, yes, I'm thinking of suicide. And I could tell you, I'm not sure what we're going to do next, but I'm going to be here to help you. And that might be involved calling the crisis line. That might be involved calling your doctor. If it's a youth, it might be calling a parent or another adult you trust.
How many people have taken this course? Have you trained?
Well, I can tell you, as of last year, we had trained 550 people. And this year, if we are on target, we'll train over 1,000 people. It's a goal of getting people there to get this information out.
And Missouri leader in this?
Missouri and Maryland
right.
work together, yes.
Great. Well, thanks for coming, Chris
Thank
Mayer.
you.